This is one of the last tanks. I have a 40-gallon, but I won't record that for quite some time till I get it cleaned up and I get stuff out of the way. One of our local fish stores was moving locations, and I purchased this for $250. It came with a tank, obviously, a tank stand, an LED light, 2 heaters, and a canister filter. It did come with like 8 dwarf lily bulbs and some anubias and all the gravel. I got a free African cichlid. I had no clue what type or species it was, but she didn't last long. She had originally came in from a customer who neglected it, and she was suffering from something, and they didn't know what to do with her, so I had a spare tank at that time, and I took care of her until she just passed away, but it's just kind of like a shame that she didn't get a better life. So during that time, I was setting up this tank, and I was just getting cuttings, and I did buy a couple of new plants and stuff. I had originally started out with a couple of Bolivians in here, a male and a female. I think I had paired them up somewhere along the line, and I eventually had 2 more pairs, and from those pairs I had baby GBRs, and they had paired up with another cichlid or something like that. Anyway, I had like 4 pairs in here, and they were all breeding, and they kept their distance. I had about this many plants then too, just placed differently, and they mostly leave each other alone unless it was feeding time. Of course, there's the pecking order. I did have some other fish in there too, I just don't remember what. Anyway, after all the breeding and stuff, I had maybe 15 rams in here, and I added 2, which was 15. I had 2 living rams. Anyway, the living room started getting really cold during the winter, and so I moved this tank into a different room, which was a little bit warmer and had a little bit better lighting. I didn't have enough buckets for all the water, so most of it was fresh water, and that kind of like shocked the plants and shocked the fish, so they're kind of like already stressed out. A lot of these are just kind of like now growing back. I had nice plants, and then they kind of died off because of that change, and then they grew back, and then they died off again. So I think a lot of it also had to do with the lighting. Sorry for my reflection. This is, what's it called? Water spray in the back, that really bushy, frilly stuff. As you can see, it's going all the way up to the front here, and it's bending down. Like this one piece right here, there's like 2 or 3 stems, or rosettes. They're not stem plants, they're rosettes. They grow all the way up to the top, and then they spread all the way to the front, and then they start curling down like this, because they have nowhere to go. Now, I don't know how long they are, but the stem of the rosette plant is the one that's curling. It's not growing like the little babies that grow even longer. You know what I'm saying? They do that, but this literally is growing so long. So anyway, I wasn't really expecting that. I didn't think they'd get that tall, considering this is a taller 90. These are now growing back. This is my other rotella right here. There's like a bunch right there. I have cut them down a couple of times, but mostly they've kind of like stayed like several inches off the substrate, and then they just took off again, which I was really happy about, because some of the other plants in here didn't do well. Like my swords, I've had these swords since maybe 2016, so they're 3 years old. They were at the top of this tank. I'm going to turn the camera here, and they died off, and they haven't done well since. Even now, they're kind of crowded out, so they're kind of melting down. I have an Argentine sort in here, a couple of them. They've never done well, so I just kind of like tucked them up in there. I don't expect them to live. This is one of the dwarf lily bulbs, and they'll grow like huge palm-sized leaves, and then they'll disintegrate. So that's why I'm keeping the bulbs. I don't naturally just pull them off the bulbs. Here's another one if you can get me out of the way. Right there, it's just like that little pink dot right here. They're not doing so great, and I think they're just really old. Plus, they're free. So, anyway, after all those fish died, my German blue rams, sorry, I'm kind of moving around a lot. There's a fishy down there. I have Platies. That one looks like a Harlequin rasbora, but it's not. It's just the markings on the Platy. I had a whole bunch of cool ones in here. They were really pretty. I had the bumblebee one, Dalmatian one, a pure white one, and then of course the orange ones. They just started dying too. And oh, here's my Otto. He's the only one I have left. Or she. Probably a she. She's got a fat belly. She seems to do well. Doesn't freak out a whole lot or anything. I didn't think she'd survive. Oh, and I have this silver platy. They kind of look blue in different lighting. But yeah, I had maybe 60 platies in here at one point, and I started giving them away because I couldn't have them. I also had a couple swordtails. I don't know if I have a swordtail in there anymore, but she was blue. I had a male and a female and a couple other swordtails that were females that were orange. And I had an orange one with the translucent white stripe down the belly. And she was my favorite, but she also died. And I just could not figure out why the fish were dying. I was doing maintenance on this tank like I should have every week. I was adding my conditioner. And they just kept dying. I'm just like, why are they dying? So, I noticed the other day, because the kitties like to sit up here. This one right here, her name is literally Shithead. She's a beauty. She's one of my favorite babies. And this one's Pumpkin. We rescued her off the street. She actually come to our house one day and refused to leave. She used to run off after I gave her a few pettings, and then one day she just like stopped leaving. And she would sit out there on the ice and stare in. She'd jump on our porch banister and stare in the window looking at us and meow. So I couldn't take it anymore. I love cats more than I love fish now, but she wanted something, and I don't know why she just didn't go away. Maybe it's because we already had cats. We have more than we should, so can't take it anymore. Yeah, anyway, the cat started getting up on the shelf. Then it was one day, one of my other cats, she peed up there. So I went up there, and sure enough, there's like splotches of pee all over from before, and it just smelled horrible. And then I noticed it was like dripping down, and where she pees, it actually drips down into my hang on the back filter, you know, the holes on the top there. That's where I was getting into. So she was poisoning my fish. And I was at that point, I kind of still am, where so many fish have died, and some of my favorites, I just kind of gave up. I'm like, well, what do I do with all these plants? I can't just throw out money. You know, I mean, I spend a lot of money on this, and I've been getting cuttings, like single stem cuttings I've grown. My Alternanthera is completely melted away because of the shade of this. That's another Laguigia species right here. It's kind of like pokey. It kind of blends in with the Rotella. You can see the tip right there. That's completely grown to the top. I don't like how it hasn't gotten... I think I don't like how dainty it is, and it kind of looks like all the other plants in there, and then like the water wisteria kind of looks like the water sprite. No, my original plan when all these plants grew back up was to put the water wisteria somewhere else, so this would all open up, because I still have that wood in there, which has blackbeard algae, and you can see another reflection. Oh, okay, you know what that was? That was one of my plants. I had found this, tipped over, and chewed on, and it was just knocked over, leaking into my tank again. You missy, get down. And that's all this water stuff right here. That's exactly how the pea gets in there. Oh, you can see the LEDs, the pods. I want to get more. Wanted to. I also. Oh, this is another result. It's a gold Platy with black spots. And then I have my beta up here. Yeah. She is one of the spawns of another pair of fish. I had 20 of them, and they had died down to maybe 11, I think. She doesn't get picked on, and she doesn't really go after all the other fish either. But anyway, I didn't want to throw all these plants out, so I just kind of like maintained the tank. Just felt like it would be a waste of money, and none of my other tanks have the proper lighting. For those of you who are curious, yes, I do have algae in here. Some of this is Java fern that I couldn't scrape off that piece of wood. There's blackbeard algae and some green algae on here. But the plants, I don't generally see algae on them unless I go a very long time without doing water changes. Now, Java ferns I never have luck with. They always melt. I think maybe I keep my tank too warm. But they kind of disintegrate. They don't do well. Or they'll grow and then they'll start getting like black dots on them. And then they'll start spreading. Like now, they're in their transition to melt again. So you can see this. Let me see if I can point it out on my finger. Right there. Right? That leaf under my finger. The tip of that is dark. And pretty soon it's going to melt. And the other ones are getting like black spots on them. Same thing kind of happens to my S. repens. I can never get that stuff to grow. It gets these weird dots and it just spreads from plant to plant of that species. And so anyway, ADD moment. I originally wanted to rip this tank down and turn it into like a frog tank. We do have tree frogs. Not gonna tell anybody where we got them. But yeah, one is missing an eye. And I don't know, I just like tree frogs, they're so cool. We only have males, and we have 5 of them. And I wanted to put those 5 of them in this tank. But I need to find a cover somehow and get the proper equipment for them. I wanted to do a kind of like shallow water down here where it was like 1 inch to 2 inches of water just for water feature and not the whole thing. I had to figure out a way to kind of like make it its own little kind of like pond area. And then the rest would be like land, and I'd have a 3D background and a waterfall. And of course live plants. Some of these would not transition to terrestrial growth very well. That's just my opinion. I've tried it. I used to have a lot of these in the terrestrial form. And for me, it's harder to get them to grow that way once they've been immersed. But yeah, I used to have Rotella, Mayaka. I've never had luck growing the water wisteria out of water. And a lot of them need to be super humid to survive. And I really don't like to see mold on on the dirt. But here's my reflection. It's a swordtail. It's a female. She had a male. He actually died a couple weeks ago. I feel bad, but I'm not gonna buy anymore. And I just think if I donate them to my local fish store, I mean, I won't get anything out of it. And plus, who knows who's gonna pick them up? You know, take them, throw them like a 5-gallon tank, and you know, just die. I don't think so. I mean, I admit I'm not getting the best conditions, but I think it's better than the other options out there. Unless I can truly find somebody who I know is going to take care of it. I am a fish person. I said I'm more of a cat person, but I still like fish. I'm just kind of in a funk right now. But I think when this tank dies, I'm turning this into some sort of a vivarium or something. Yeah, that, and to get the weight off the ground, or I mean the floor, because the floor is already starting to kind of like tilt, and this is like 1,000 pounds. So anyway, that's that. I do have this. This was a free plant. This little like streaky half moon thingy. It grows like a crip. It could be a crip. I just don't know what it is. And also it does grow coloring reflection on it. You can barely see it. Okay, there. The veins in this plant right here. It's like in person, this leaf right here is like bronzish green. And then you can see the veins in it. Now this is cryptlucens right here. If that's how you say it. The reflection. My hand in there. Okay, that's better. Barely. Right here. I used to have a bunch of that. And that's kind of died off. I've tried different lighting, and I found it only survives right here. I haven't moved them around too much. I've just taken pieces and placed them in different takes and stuff, and this is the only one that's lasted in. Let's see what else we have in here. I do have a couple racks in here, big ones, but you can't really see them anymore. I did have breeding stones. They're just flat decorative stones. No, not painted or anything. Placed throughout the tank for the rams to breed on. And this one was kind of cool. It's like a square rock. And you can see the layers in it. I really like that one. Yeah, mostly there's the rotella, the swords, the water sprite, and the water wisteria left. I had several other species, but they did not survive. So anyway, that's it for the 90-gallon. It's pretty boring. I'm really sorry about the reflection. There. That's if I like stand way back here. That's a better shot. So, I guess I'll give another update if something changes. Bye.